Air travel has always carried with it a sense of wonder, but also mystery. Planes soar above oceans and continents, and while most journeys end without incident, there are those rare cases where an aircraft simply vanishes without a trace. These disappearances capture the public imagination because they leave behind unanswered questions, tangled in speculation and theories that often blur the line between fact and legend. One such case occurred in 1978 in the skies over Australia, and to this day, it remains one of aviation's most baffling puzzles. The story centers around Frederick Valentich, a 20-year-old pilot who seemed to have a promising career ahead of him. Though still young, he had logged about 150 hours of flying time and had qualified to fly at night. To his friends and family, Valentich appeared capable and confident. He was passionate about flying, enthusiastic about aviation, and determined to carve out a future for himself in the skies. But on the night of October 21, 1978, his name would forever be etched into the annals of unsolved mysteries. That evening was calm and clear, perfect flying conditions. Valentich rented a Cessna 182, a light single-engine aircraft, registered VH-DSJ, for what seemed like a routine 232-kilometer trip. His plan was to fly from Moorabbin Airport near Melbourne to King Island, a small community off the coast of Tasmania. He told officials that he intended to pick up friends from the island, though oddly, later investigations revealed that no one was actually expecting him. He even carried 4 life jackets on board, perhaps as a precaution, perhaps as part of some other plan. At approximately 6:19 p.m., Valentich took off. For nearly an hour, everything appeared normal. But at 7:06 p.m., he contacted Melbourne Air Traffic Control with a transmission that would set in motion one of the strangest aviation mysteries in history. Valentich reported seeing an unidentified aircraft in the sky. It was flying unusually close to him, almost taunting, circling above. When asked to describe it, he said it was long, with a metallic surface that reflected light, and it had a distinct green glow. The air traffic controller, puzzled, confirmed that there were no known military or civilian aircraft in the area. Yet Valentich insisted something was there. "It's not an aircraft," he said at one point, a phrase that has since been repeated countless times in documentaries, articles, and debates. His description became more urgent. He claimed the mysterious object was orbiting above him, vanishing, then reappearing. And then came the final, chilling moments. A loud metallic scraping noise was heard through the radio before the line went dead. Valentich and his Cessna were never seen again. Immediately, a large-scale search effort began. For 4 days, aircraft and ships scoured more than 1,000 square miles of the Bass Strait, the treacherous stretch of water between mainland Australia and Tasmania. Despite the thoroughness of the mission, not a single trace of Valentich or his plane was ever found. No wreckage, no oil slick, no life jackets. The Australian Department of Transport eventually concluded the cause of his disappearance could not be determined. He was officially presumed dead, but beyond that, nothing was certain. As the news spread, the case took on a life of its own. Valentich's final transmission, describing lights, metallic reflections, and the words "it's not an aircraft," ignited a storm of theories. UFO enthusiasts quickly seized on the case as possible proof of extraterrestrial involvement. To them, Valentich had not crashed but had been abducted, his plane perhaps taken aboard a spacecraft or destroyed by it. The green lights he described matched numerous UFO sightings reported in the weeks leading up to his disappearance. In fact, the Australian Air Force received at least 11 separate reports from people along the Victorian coast who claimed they had also seen unusual lights in the sky that same evening. Many described a glowing green light, eerily consistent with Valentich's account. The coincidence seemed too extraordinary to ignore. Could so many people have been mistaken? Or did they genuinely witness something that defied conventional explanation? One of the most striking testimonies came later from a farmer near Cape Otway. He claimed that on the very next day, he saw a large metallic object hovering over his property, glowing with a greenish light. What made his story even more shocking was his insistence that he saw a small aircraft attached to the side of the object, as if trapped or smashed into it. He was so disturbed that he etched the tail number of the plane into his tractor, and according to reports, the number matched Valentich's Cessna. Skeptics would later question the farmer's credibility, especially since he only came forward decades after the event. But his account added yet another eerie layer to an already chilling mystery. Was this simply the case of a young pilot becoming disoriented, or was something otherworldly at play? As more details about Valentich's personal life emerged, the questions only deepened. As investigators looked more closely into Frederick Valentich's background, they discovered details that complicated the narrative. For all his passion, Valentich had a troubled record as a pilot. He had failed parts of his training multiple times, had been rejected from joining the Air Force, and had even received warnings for flying into restricted zones. Some experts argue that his lack of experience might have played a crucial role in the events of that night. Perhaps what he believed to be a mysterious object was simply an optical illusion, a trick of the light, or a misinterpretation of natural phenomena. One possibility often cited is that Valentich was flying upside down without realizing it, a disorienting situation that can occur in small aircraft when visibility is low. In that position, the reflection of his own plane's lights on the water below might have seemed like a glowing object circling him. The green light he described could have come from his Cessna's navigation lights, distorted in the darkness. This theory might explain his increasingly confused radio transmissions. Yet skeptics point out that Valentich had completed his night flying certification and should have been able to recognize such a basic scenario. Another explanation involves the phenomenon known as pilot spatial disorientation. Over open water at night with no clear horizon, even experienced pilots can lose their sense of up and down. If Valentich misread his instruments or panicked, he might have inadvertently flown into the sea. The metallic scraping sound at the end of his call could have been the aircraft breaking apart upon impact with the waves. If that were the case, though, why was no wreckage ever found? The absence of physical evidence remains one of the strongest arguments for those who favor extraordinary explanations. Even in accidents over large bodies of water, fragments usually wash ashore eventually. But decades later, nothing conclusively linked to Valentich's plane has been discovered. This vacuum of evidence fuels the more sensational theories. The UFO hypothesis continues to dominate popular discussions. Supporters point to the timing. Australia had experienced a wave of UFO sightings in the months leading up to the disappearance. Witnesses described strange lights in the sky, sometimes green in color, behaving in ways conventional aircraft could not. Valentich's descriptions match these accounts with uncanny similarity. To enthusiasts, it was not coincidence, but corroboration. Critics, however, argue that UFO believers often shape facts to fit their narrative. They remind us that human memory is malleable, and many witnesses only came forward after Valentich's story made headlines. It's possible that some accounts were exaggerated or influenced by media coverage. In such emotionally charged cases, the line between memory and imagination can blur. There's also the theory that Valentich staged his own disappearance. Some investigators speculated that he might have become overwhelmed by personal or financial pressures and decided to vanish deliberately. Taking the Cessna out over the Bass Strait would have been an effective way to fake an accident. Perhaps he landed elsewhere, abandoned the aircraft, and disappeared to start a new life. But those who knew Valentich best reject this notion. They describe him as deeply committed to his family and his dream of aviation, not someone who would abandon everything. No credible evidence has ever surfaced to support the idea that he faked his death. In 2013, intrigue around Frederick Valentich's disappearance reignited when a fragment found on Flinders Island was identified as consistent with a Cessna 182 from his era. Still, without the full wreckage, the mystery remained unsolved. Over the years, Valentich's case has grown into Australian folklore, fueling books, documentaries, and countless debates. Believers view it as compelling evidence of UFO encounters, while skeptics see it as a tragic accident shaped by human error. The power of the story lies in its ambiguity, especially Valentich's haunting last words. It's not an aircraft. Was it fear, confusion, or a glimpse into the unknown? Even with today's advanced tracking, the 1978 case endures as a reminder that mysteries still exist in our world. More than a pilot's disappearance, it reflects humanity's search for answers, an eternal struggle between fact, speculation, and wonder at the unexplainable.